Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Right, last week when all the European Super League nonsense was booting off, threats were being made that if you played for one of the 12 teams who'd signed up for it, you wouldn't be allowed to go to an international tournament. So what I'm going to do today is go through all 24 teams who are set to compete at this summer's European Championships and see who was the best player from each team who might not have been able to play. Let's go. Turkey, Hakan Çalhanoğlu. We're kicking things off with Turkey, a nation who probably wouldn't have been too badly affected had the European Super League started and ruined football. Sure, football wouldn't have been the same ever again, but Turkey would have only lost 2 or 3 players max. Suppose it depends on whether Liverpool sign Ozan Kabak permanently. Stay at Schalke and you could go to the Euros as a player from a second tier club, or he joins Liverpool permanently and he gets the summer off. It's a tough choice. But the best player Turkey would lose would be AC Milan's Hakan Çalhanoğlu, a man who's been linked with the Premier League so long without moving that I'm sometimes not sure if he even exists. I mean, he can take a mean free kick, I'll give him that, but that's literally the only thing I've ever seen him do. He's like a modern day Juninho. Seriously, did that guy ever do anything inside a normal play? Italy, Giorgio Chiellini. The ASL would obviously have affected the big nations at the Euros this summer, but out of all the potential winners, maybe Italy would be harmed the least other than maybe Germany or France? I mean, sure, they'd lose the 2 young upstarts from AC Milan and the 2 centre-backs so old from Juventus that they've had both the COVID jabs after spending a year in the house, but other than that, they'd be fine. The Azzurri might still do okay, they could still call upon Ciro Immobile. Get him up top alongside Mario Balotelli, they'd have a great chance. But defensively, without the veteran Chiellini, things might be a bit harder, even if he has got a chunk missing from his shoulder. Wales, Gareth Bale. Wales, Golf, Madrid, in that order. At least if Gareth Bale couldn't go to the Euros, he'd get more time to play a full 18. If Wales lost Gareth Bale, they might as well have not bothered turning up. I mean, sure, they would still have Hal Robson-Kanu, but if he scored another goal like he did against Belgium 5 years ago, I honestly think I'd just give up football altogether. I was in Belgium at the time that goal went in, and honestly, you couldn't get moved for embarrassed Belgians trying to drown their sorrows at the fact they've just been knocked out of the tournament by a guy who plays for a club whose name they can't even pronounce, simply because of the fact that the English language is, quite frankly, a little bit weird. Yeah, James, that'll entice viewers. Talk about the English language. Idiot. Switzerland, Xherdan Shaqiri. Imagine being Xherdan Shaqiri. The poor lad spent the whole season sat on the Liverpool bench wondering why on earth his teammates were flopping so hard to ensure that he couldn't rob his way to another medal. Then at the end of it, he gets told he can't play for Switzerland, the one team where he's held to a high regard and put on a pedestal as the main man. I mean, even at Stoke he was sitting on the bench at times. But between him and Granit Xhaka, I think we can all agree who the best Swiss player is, and it's certainly not the guy who's been forced to play left back at the Emirates lately. Denmark, Christian Eriksen. Denmark likely would have lost 5 or 6 players had the European Super League clubs been punished, but their biggest loss would no doubt be Christian Eriksen. Honestly, I feel like every Denmark game I've watched in the past 5 years, their plan's been keep it tight at the back, Kasper might make a few saves, and if we're lucky, Christian will bail us out. If not, we'll just hedge with bets on penalties. But when Eriksen left Spurs, he wanted to join a bigger club, but little did he know he was already at a European Super League giant. Christ, how on earth did they even blag that? Finland, no one. Although I'm fairly sure Jori Litmanen still could have got a game for Liverpool at times this season, Finland don't have a single player who would have been affected by the ESL greed. They'd have been able to rock up at Euro 2021 a year later than planned with a full strength squad, safe in the knowledge that if they got the ball somewhere near the opposition's half towards Timo Pukki, then maybe, just maybe, they might get a shot on target. Just make sure he doesn't have to play in Scotland. Things didn't go too well the last time he had to cross the border. Belgium, Kevin De Bruyne. Christ, this Belgium team would have been absolutely decimated. Their best bet would have just been praying that nobody remembered that Eden Hazard actually plays for Real Madrid, such as how little he's actually played for Los Blancos. Obviously with Hazard's issues, the best player Belgium would lose would be Kevin De Bruyne, which is ironic because it was his doppelganger who got lost way back in the 90s in a film that weirdly included Donald Trump and Steve Bruce. But things might have been okay for Belgium, the defence wouldn't have been too damaged, and at least they could still have Christian Benteke leading the line. That man's in red hot form right now. Well, in relative terms, compared to other strikers he's lukewarm, but for Christian Benteke, red hot. Russia, no one. It doesn't look like Russia would have lost anyone either, so finally Igor Akinfeev's decision to stick it out at CSKA Moscow is paying dividends. Netherlands, Virgil van Dijk. Right, I mean he probably won't be fit anyway, but if he was, Virgil van Dijk would be the best Dutch player not allowed to go to the Euros. Christ, this is confusing. Right, so in reality he's allowed to go, but he probably won't because he's injured. But in this alternative universe, he wouldn't be allowed to go no matter what. Either way, he's injured, he's probably not going to make it. The Dutch would lose a fair few centre-backs to be honest. Nathan Ake, Matthijs de Ligt, the whole team would just be relying on Memphis Depay whilst praying the back three of Fosu Mensah, Armin van Buuren and Vincent van Gogh's gammy ear can hold tight. Ukraine, OLEKSANDR Zinchenko. He was absolutely buzzing when Ukraine qualified. Imagine having to tell that happy little face that he's not allowed to go to the tournament anymore. He'd just have to go home and cry into his medals after another ridiculous season from Man City. Don't worry, Ollie. Florentino Perez said you could all create your own Euros. Sure, for Ukraine it would just be you and Andrei Lunin, the Real Madrid backup goalkeeper, but I'd still back you against Finland's team of no one. He'd at least get a 0-0 draw. Austria, Valentino, Lazaro. Austria would be lucky really, as the two best players, David Alaba and Marcel Sabitzer, both play in Germany, where they didn't sign up for the European Super League. I mean mainly because they're all partially fan owned. It would have been like taking your unfinished homework to the teacher and asking if you can go home early. The one player Austria would lose would be Valentino Lazaro, as he's actually on loan from Inter Milan. Yes, the lad who couldn't get in the Newcastle team ahead of DeAndre Yedlin, Matt Ritchie, Henri Saivet or Fabrice Pancras wouldn't be allowed to go to the Euros. North Macedonia, Dejan ILIEV. Okay, so apparently Arsenal have got a player from North Macedonia. He's Dejan ILIEV, he's 26 years old and he's a goalkeeper who's never played for his country. But he did make a recent squad last October, so yeah, if North Macedonia were considering calling him up, they'd have to think again. Although with all due respect, he probably wouldn't be the biggest miss. Unless he's a good laugh around the training ground, maybe he's got some good jokes, or he's got big arms he can help carry the bags. England, Harry Kane. I mean, the one positive of England not being able to use European Super League players would have been the end of the age-old debate Mason Mount, Phil Foden or Jack Grealish. I mean, Jack Grealish, Maddison or Martin Noble doesn't quite have the same level of gravitas, does it? But while England would keep the likes of Grealish, your Sanchos, your Bellinghams, they would lose the main man up top. The man who's going to lead this country to glory, the man who'll be lifting the European Championship this summer. That's right, Harry Kane. Yeah, we're starting the overhyping early, lads. It's coming home this year. I can feel it. Oh, that might just be a fungal infection. Croatia, Luka Modric. Sure, he's about 50 years old and still looks a little bit like Gail Platt from Corrie, but Luka Modric is still Croatia's best player, and the best player they'd have lost had the European Super League gone ahead. It's a shame this didn't happen 3 years ago, to be honest with you. Maybe if Croatia lost a few players, then we wouldn't have thrown away that World Cup semi-final. Damn you, Mario Mandzukic, damn you straight to hell. Scotland, Andy Robertson. The only problem Scotland would have had if the ESL had gone as planned would have been at left back. The poor lads would have lost their two best players. It's bad enough they both play in the same position, but at this rate they wouldn't have been able to call on either of them. Luckily for Scotland, they'll still have Andy Robertson running a million miles an hour down the flank, and hopefully Kieran Tierney in his Tesco bag will be fit too, no doubt to embarrass England at Wembley. Czech Republic, MATEJ, KOVAR. To be honest, the Czechs wouldn't have been too bothered by the whole European Super League fiasco. The best player they could have lost was MATEJ KOVAR, a 20-year-old goalkeeper who belongs to Man United and he's never played for the Czech Republic before in his life. I mean, Christ, there'd have been more chance of Petr Cech coming out of retirement, unless he truly fancies himself as a negotiator from now on. I hear it's quite the money spinner. Spain, Sergio Ramos. Genuinely wasn't sure who to pick for Spain. They've got so many top class players. Don't know why I said top so many times. But they're just not at the same level they were a few years ago when they were dominating world football. But I'm going with Sergio Ramos, a man who's played nearly 200 times for his country, and a man who will do whatever it takes to win. Christ, he'd even break your collarbone if it meant getting himself another trophy. Sweden, ZLATAN IBRAHIMOVIC. The poor bloke's only just come out of international retirement, then there was a chance he wouldn't even been allowed to go to the Euros with Sweden. Then there'd have been some long and arduous third-person monologue about how Ibra is the lion and the lion cannot be tamed and he doesn't give to charity. And it wouldn't matter for Sweden really, they didn't need any Super League players to qualify for the Euros, so they won't need any to compete in the tournament either. That's a lie, they would have lost Kulusevski and Victor Lindelof, and that would have been a real blow. For Spain, Poland and Slovakia, they'll be dying to come up against the Man United defender. Poland, Wojciech Szczesny. Poland would be okay, to be honest with you. The big thing is, they wouldn't lose Robert Lewandowski, although he would be excused for forgetting that he was even at the World Cup in 2018. In goal they wouldn't have Juventus #1 Wojciech Szczesny, but at least they would still be able to call on Lukas Fabianski, a man who's come such a long way since he was named Flappy Hansky by those playground bullies. But as we say, he's come such a long way since then. Oh dear. Slovakia, Milan Skriniar. When you think of Slovakia, you think of Marek Hamšík, and when you realise he's now playing in Sweden, you turn your attention to Milan Skriniar. So yeah, Slovakia, they'd lose their best player, and you just have a scene where Martin Dubravka's been absolutely peppered with shots as if he's gone paintballing. Which you'll probably find confident, to be honest with you, because that's basically what he has to do as Newcastle #1. Hungary, no one. Well, that's a lie straight away. I'm starving. All I had for my dinner was a scabby pot noodle. Our third and final country who wouldn't lose anyone, Hungary wouldn't have anything to worry about this summer. Well, no one does, to be honest with you. Anyway, Hungary could have been safe in the knowledge that their squad wouldn't have been impacted and then keep Zoltan Gera in the freezer until the next major tournament. Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, yes, Cristiano Ronaldo is the best player Portugal have got. He's one of the greatest of all time. Even now when he barely runs, he can still score from wherever he wants, and he can jump higher than the world's tallest dwarf. But the Portugal squad would be decimated if the ESL players weren't allowed to play. It would literally be the whole Wolves team just staring at Jose Fonte and Pepe, waiting for some kind of instructions because they're the oldest. France, Raphael Varane. You could take all the ESL players out of the France team, they'll probably still win it. You could probably take 2 French teams to the Euros, and the France A team would play the France B team in the final. That's how much depth they've got, it's scary. And the best thing is, even if the ESL did happen, they still wouldn't lose their best player, Florent Cinema Pongol. Oh, and Mbappe, he'd be allowed to play too. They would lose some big players from Pogba to Kante, but the biggest for me would have been Raphael Varane. Germany, Toni Kroos. Germany wouldn't really have anything to worry about if the European Super League had happened, as all their top players still play in the Bundesliga. They'd still have Manuel Neuer, Serge Gnabry, Josh Kimmich, Leroy Sané, Leon Goretzka, all the boys at Bayern. But would losing Toni Kroos be a blow? Yeah, probably would be to a certain extent, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small price to pay to ensure that Timo Werner doesn't embarrass himself on the world stage. I mean, Jesus Christ, you could give the poor lad a bowl of cereal. I still don't even think he could finish that. So there we have it, that's the best player every Euro 2021 team could have lost because of the European Super League. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HITC Sport. And until next time, we will see you around.